Hi, folks. This is Gary Van Warmerdale from pathwaytohappiness.com. I want to take a moment to talk about that inner critic I call the judge, that voice in your head that might be a little bit unkind and it might be horrifically brutal and berate you and really put you down into a deep, dark place. So depends on the person, the moment, whether it's a little nuisance or it's a really painful, emotional experience. But that voice in your head I call the judge is it's been around a long time, and it can be gotten rid of and can be made to be a pretty good experience. It has to change the way it talks to you. It has to change the emotion it uses. It has to change the meaning of the words. And to do that, it means you have to change how you interact with it. And the first step to that is awareness, being aware of what it's doing, how it's doing, and to have an awareness that it's not you. That's not you talking to yourself. It's a part of your mind that's learned these programmed thoughts and is kind of feeding them to you for it has a reason for it. Why is it doing that? One of the things is it's learned that if it does that, it makes you a better person. And so if you inventory the beliefs and the structure of that judge about why it's might be beating you up to the point where you're depressed, it has the notion that if it's harsh enough to you, if it punishes you enough that you'll feel so bad, so worthless, so painful that you won't make that mistake again. You won't do that again. And then you can live to this higher potential. So its intent is that you become more perfect, better, more loving, accepting, more spiritual even, more enlightened even. Uh, Maybe it's beating you up because you didn't do a meditation this morning or yesterday, or didn't practice enough of the gratitude exercise in my course, or didn't do enough journal writing or some other exercise, or go to the gym, ask for a raise, whatever would make your life better, or asked the woman out or said yes to someone who asked you out when you wanted to but were afraid. Whatever self-defeating thing, it's trying to get you not to do that so that you're a better person. So that's its intent. And I'll just show a little graphic that it uses very harsh language sometimes under the intent that that's going to get you to change. And this looks like it's a truth at first glance because somewhere in our life, some negative punishment, a scolding got us to change our behavior. A reprimand, a criticism got us to change. And so in our memory banks of that program is that it works. And so if other people yelled at us or angry at us and berate us, then we won't want to receive that emotional punishment anymore. And so that we will change. And we won't do that anymore. And we'll study harder and work harder. And so that's the belief. And at a surface level, it has a truth because it was true in history sometimes. However, that's not really what happens. Day to day, particularly as an adult, as that judge, inner critic, is doing its habitual routine of criticism, what happens is we create another part of our persona in our mind that we are living victimized by that berating voice of the inner judge. And we end up feeling like a loser. We feel the emotions of worthlessness, shame, failure, rejection, guilt, despair, hopelessness. It can lead to depression. You believe what it says enough, you are going to put yourself into an emotional state of all these things. And so if you ask the judge in the belief system inventory, why is it doing this? It'll say, well, if you suffer enough like this, you will realize that you don't want to receive this and you're going to be motivated to be your highest self again. But that's not really what happens. I mean, the judge is saying you're going to end up in one place. You're going to end up in your perfect self, your authentic self, your most spiritual self. But you really end up feeling down into this victim persona state of mind and emotion. feeling worthless. And like I said, the judge will say, well, that's fine. From there, though, you'll be kickstarted into becoming better. But it doesn't really work that way. That's part of the judge's lie. He sees only part of the story. He says, well, after you've been victimized enough, you get motivated. True for short-term motivation, negative punishment, particularly when we're a kid, we're adaptable and flexible. But if we're staying in these repetitive stories, we don't actually go back up by that mechanism. It is not our victim persona state of mind that says, you know what, I'm going to try again. That's not the victim that says that. The part of us that feels hopeless and worthless doesn't say, well, I'm going to go to the gym now. I'm going to sit down and meditate. When we're in that state of mind, we do victim type things. We go squash our emotions and numb them out with sugar, food, alcohol, cigarettes, shopping. We go do sabotaging behaviors. We go check our email and get busy on social media, do something to bump up our self-esteem, try and get some likes. Who knows, maybe we put out a YouTube video, right? And we look for something that's going to trigger our positive self-image and positive self-esteem. But being a victim doesn't do that. Being a victim is just mulling over in those unworthiness emotions, okay? What actually happens is another part of our persona kicks in to get us to our highest potential, okay? It's not the victim that activates. It's a part of us that gets up and goes because we know we're something better, something else than all the stories and emotions that come with the victim aspect of our personality. It was just added over time with stories. There is something intrinsic to us that's good, something that's intrinsic to us in our integrity. It says, I want a better life. I have the capability for things and I know what I can do. And so that's the part that gets motivated, takes action, and gets us to live a better life. It actually gets us the results we want to live in. So it's not the victim persona that the judge says will get us there to having a better life. It's this other part of our personality. We might call it our authentic self, our artist, our warrior spirit, something in our creative self, authentic. That's what gets up and goes. That's what says, I want to sit down and meditate. That's what sits down, hey, I'm going to go work on this project, or feels the confidence, say, I'm going to go ask this person out or for a raise or apply for that job, okay, or goes into the interview feeling confident. The victim never really, in that victim state of mind and emotion, doesn't do that, okay? So what you realize looking at this, hopefully, is there's a contradiction between what the judge says it's trying to do, there's the intent of what it's trying to do, but then there's what actually happens versus what it says happens, okay? It says pushing you into a victim state and berating you is actually going to get you there. It doesn't. And so this is where you come to realize, hopefully, a little bit of skepticism, a little bit of doubt about what the judge is doing, that it has this false belief that what it's operating by is this belief system it learned maybe we're 5, 8 years old, that when we get punished, we'll change our behavior and do better. Okay? But that's a lie. As an adult, we don't operate that way. When we get punished by repetition, we go into a victim state, we do less. We've got these other parts of our personality that actually take action. So the lie is that when that inner judge is telling you that berating you or putting you down is somehow going to help you get better, it's lying to you. When the inner judge is telling you that berating you or putting you down is going to help you get better, it's lying. There's other parts of your personality that actually move out to take action, to make things better. It's not the victim that it puts you in that makes you better. Something else, something authentic and genuine gets you to get up and go. Your artist, your warrior spirit, your creative self, your integrity, something authentic within you. So when you come to that realization, you have an awareness that the judge is doing this, it's saying one thing, trying to get you to hear, but it's actually bringing you down into a victim state. When you see that, you might feel a little bit of dissonance, a little bit of uneasiness. There'll be this, wait a minute, I've been operating by this belief for years that it was my friend, ally, it was going to motivate me, and now it's not doing that. And so you'll have a realization that the world you were living in, that inner world of beliefs, is not true. And you won't know exactly what is the truth just yet, but you'll know that this inner world's not true. And that'll be a little bit uncomfortable. In cases you're like, well, what's really going on here? That dissonance, to see a false belief in your mind, that dissonance, that uncomfortable feeling in your body, is good. That means your neural pathways are rewiring. This inner world that it's constructed about how to live in the world, how to be successful, it's changing. And it feels a little uncomfortable. And the more that you practice some of the exercise in the self-mastery course and you relax your body and you breathe and you let the emotions go, the easier that gets. And you'll learn that that uncomfortable feeling, like, oh, that's a good thing. That means my neural pathways are changing. And if some of you are listening to this and that voice in your head is saying, no, no, it's not true, you really need that judge to motivate you or else you won't do anything, not surprised, it's going to push back. But there's other questions you can ask it. Ask yourself, if that judge criticizing you is going to make you better, well then wouldn't criticizing you and berating you more make you even better? And to make you really, really good, wouldn't it just be the way to go to berate you and put you down into a deep, dark pit of despair? Wouldn't that motivate you even more? No, it wouldn't. If it's saying that some is good, then more is better, more's not better. More just makes you feel worse and less motivated. Okay? It pushes out the thoughts that you can go do something and feel confident and willing to take action. When you're in that victim state, it pushes you in. And you might also think about it this way, and I'm just trying to give you different ways to think about it to help you have skepticism and doubt against that voice that's trying to keep its station and current program of beliefs in place. So here's another way to question it. If that much berating and self-judgment is really helping you by saying it's going to get you motivated to go take action, then you might say that the most successful people, think of you people you think are really successful and have accomplished a lot, they're the people with the strongest critic and the harshest voice in their head. Is that really true? Do you think that Bill Gates is walking around with a really harsh voice in his head and feels terrible about himself all the time, or Richard Branson, or Elon Musk, or pick somebody? Probably not. And if they were, would you really want to live in that emotional state where it's that harsh? Probably not. So these are some ways to question some of the logic of the judge and that program of unconscious beliefs that you get to find when you look a little deeper. And you can find ways to do this in the self-mastery course on my website, pathwaytohappiness.com. And you can learn more about this reading my book, Mind Works. This is Gary Van Warmerdam from pathwaytohappiness.com. Take care. Hope that helps.